Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David, and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
I have a lot to say today, David.
We're here to talk about, like we warned you last week, we're here to talk about the newest Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
The fifth and final Indiana Jones.
Ever,
yeah.
If you didn't listen to our episode last week, we spoke about the first 4 episodes. We gave a bit of an analysis and our own opinions on how we felt about those movies, just as a bit of a look back ahead before this episode.
That episode you'll find on Spotify or your most desired, preferred podcasting app of choice.
Yeah, so make sure that if you want to listen to that before we talk about this new one. And as always, full spoilers for this new movie. So if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, or if you don't mind it being spoiled, you know.
Well, the weekend's passed. They've had time to see it.
Yeah.
There's a spoiler episode. Mm-hmm. Well, David.
Like we said last week, where we both were just like, we're just happy for it to be like nestled in amongst the rest of the series. I was satisfied with it, and I think that it nestles itself quite nicely in amongst the other films.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great movie.
I agree.
And it's... You know, when looking at Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I would say it's not a great... It's not a good Indiana Jones movie, but it doesn't mean it's not a good movie. Mm-hmm. I think Kingdom is a good movie. This Indiana Jones is a good Indiana Jones movie. But if it wasn't Indiana Jones, I don't think it would be great. So I think it's sort of flipped now that I've said that out loud. Yeah. So that's my thought on this movie. If this movie had a different, even character, never mind the actor, I don't know if the movie would be that good. But because it's Indiana Jones, it's more engaging to follow.
Nearly relies on your already pre-existing love for the character.
Maybe, yeah, probably. Now, in having said that, I'm not shitting on it. I did like this movie. But I do have a lot to say, David.
Yeah, they're, I think very similarly to Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. Even more so, there's something that happens in it, and you're either on board with it or you're not. And for Kingdom of Crystal Skulls, that was, okay, we're dealing with aliens here. For this one, it's time travel. And, I don't want to jump right into the end, but we'll save it for later. You have to be on board with it or not. And I think that might be a little bit jarring for some people. But we won't jump into the end. We'll start at the start. Start at the beginning.
Yeah.
How did you find the opening, not sequence, but section of this film?
For 20 minutes, it's young Harrison Ford as old Harrison Ford as a young Indiana Jones. And I liked it. Mm-hmm. And you pull him out of the truck and he's tied up behind, hands are tied, and he's got the hood over him. They're shoving him around. They pull the mask off, and... there he is. There's good old Indiana Jones. They finally got another veteran actor to de-age, and this one was Harrison Ford. I think it's a given thing now, like these days with a franchise. If it's like the latest installment of a long-running IP, it's like a checkbox you need to tick.
With Disney, definitely.
Yeah, you need to de-age them. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. And yes, of course I stood out. Of course I paid too much attention to his face, and it was taking my attention away from the writing and the action and the overall sequence. Mm-hmm. Especially when Harrison Ford is on screen. However, I didn't let it bother me. It was fine. I liked the opening sequence, and I really liked Mads Mikkelsen in the opening sequence. Mads Mikkelsen, later on, he's the primary antagonist, but in the opening, not only is he just still a young scientist with a bit of knowledge and a bit of his own opinions kept to himself, he's like at the bottom of the barrel, serving his masters, and face punched off him.
Yeah,
and he's like that. He's just a scientist.
He's just another. He's on the first rung of the ladder. He's at the bottom. He's not commander or general or anything like that. He's very much just
his true colours hasn't come through until the very, very end. Mm-hmm. when he's in that uniform. But we'll get to that in the end.
I kind of agree with you.
I'd just like to in saying that, it does feel like, did you see my reaction when that bar above the train track, as the train, and just knocks him the feck over off the train? Did you see my reaction? I like, oh, it's like, it looked like he died there, but he didn't. He got full on whacked off that goddamn train.
Yeah.
And I was cool.
I expected that to happen to the first, like, the kind of, who you're led to believe is like the bad guy. The guy there, he's fighting on top of the train.
Yeah.
Because they are on top of the train and he's standing there menacingly, and then Toby Jones' character like shouts out tunnel and they all jump down. I thought it would be very much Indy sees it, jumps down, and your man hits the tunnel, and that's him dealt with. So I expected that for his character, but not Mads' character. That, you're right, when he got hit by that pole, I was like, oh, that seems like he's gone kind of a hit.
Yeah.
So maybe I would have liked to see him dispatched in a slightly different way, just because
that looked a bit too much like that should have killed you. Yeah,
and to then the next time we see him, there's no physical disability or scarring or anything like that. It was just
him in the next scene.
Yes,
a couple
20 years older.
Yeah, and I do think we should have seen him maybe survive it, or maybe some scarring in it, or maybe a limp,
a limp. Yeah,
a limp would have been nice, or maybe his hands a bit bucked up,
or even one armed. Like you say, he lost an arm or something like that, and his sleeve was just folded up.
Yeah, that would be sympathetic. Yeah, 100%.
I agree with you in terms of the de-aging. I thought the de-aging looked great. Now, I was similar to you. I was looking at it very intently, so there were certain bits where I was like, oh, it's a little bit off there. Specifically when he was brought up by the Germans and the noose around his neck. But the noose and his face were CGI, so I could see it. I could see the discrepancy between the two.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was able to just kind of say, I'm looking at it too closely. It doesn't look bad. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the cracks in the armor.
And do you know what else? It looked great when they put the mask off first, because he's not really moving. But as soon as he starts talking and fighting, then that's when okay.
It's very much a Indiana Jones from the 1940s, but it's still the voice of an 80-year-old Harrison Ford. You can hear it.
Yeah, it's definitely an older voiced Harrison Ford. And
I don't know why they didn't put his voice through a de-ager as well. Maybe they don't have that yet. I know that they've done it with other actors, that they've used AI voices. Maybe they didn't want to go that route because they had Harrison there. But like, I think that definitely in that sequence, the less is more.
Yeah.
Like having him move through the train car with the other soldiers was very much like, when he's not saying anything, he's just hiding. I was like, okay, that looks like it was,
and
the 80s it was filmed.
And that is also peak Indiana Jones. That's what Indiana Jones would have done during the original trilogy, or just post it. Isn't it funny that this is after the Holy Grail?
The Last Crusade, yeah.
Jesus, now that I think about it, this is before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's crazy. I didn't actually think of that. But there was this one bit when after the bike, he's in the car, and of course Nazi generals get in the car and he's taxiing them around, and then he jumps onto the bike, and the bike gets separated from the secondary wagon split from a tree, and then from there he gets onto the train, and then you got that over wide shot of the train going, the landscape shot.
Yeah.
That looked like a video game.
That was a bit wonky. Yeah, I noticed that when he was running on top of it. I'm like, that doesn't look like even a real person. Never mind it being Harrison Ford. It looks like it's a model moving along.
Yeah, I don't know why. No, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Something that you actually pointed out last week was evident in this opening sequence as well, which was that you said Indiana Jones always just escapes by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
And that's very much so with the sequence where he is with the noose around his neck.
Yeah.
Because there's that like maybe 2-3 minute scene where he's trying to get the noose off and everything in the building is crumbling around him.
Because a bomb went off.
Yeah.
A bomb that was dropped into the building that was a dud at first and just sinks through the lower decks of the building.
So he's kind of swinging from floor to floor, and
Yeah.
he's just like he just can't get the noose off. And I was thinking about you the whole time. I was like, this is exactly like you said. Like, he's just getting away by the skin of his teeth. He's not.
I think it's further. I think it's heightened a little bit, but not as heightened as Kingdom. But it's still a little bit heightened. I mean, come on. And a lot of it is like CG. Like, I'm just thinking back. Like, Harrison Ford's in the grit and the dirt, and it's all real. Here it's just CGI. You know, fair enough. He's 8 years old. Cut us some slack. But look, that's what I'm saying when we're talking about it. But the opening sequence was great, and yeah, apparently he had this good old friend, played by Toby Jones, who was that good of a friend. Toby Jones named Indiana Jones as his child's godfather.
Yeah.
And they're from separate continents, and we've only heard about them now. Okay, that's fine, no problem, that's fine. I think maybe it would have been better if it was Marcus Brody. But then I'm just, nitpicking. If I wanted this and this and this and that to happen, I should not watch this movie. Write the script from scratch, and see how it turns out. This is the story they wanted to do. And by all means, I do not want Marcus Brody played by a different actor.
Yeah.
So, fair enough, this is what they had. And cue 1969.
I think that the transition from that sequence to 1969 is actually a huge transition that maybe isn't apparent to begin with.
It's just cut to.
Yeah, but thematically and character-wise. Because we finished that scene with Indy and Shaw's Professor Shaw. Baz, was it?
Baz, I think.
Baz. Yeah, so Indy and Baz walking away, and then we cut to Professor Henry Jones. We don't cut to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
We cut to Professor Jones. And I was like, oh, he's not Indiana Jones anymore. That's his past life, that he's not that anymore. And he's very much the professor and the archaeologist. He's no longer the adventurer and archaeologist. And then we see his life now, which is waking up on the couch. He's relying on drink, which he's never done before.
Yeah. He's an old grumpy man telling kids to turn the music down.
Yeah.
He's become worse than his father.
He has become his father in a way, yeah.
Actually worse, but his father was at least sweet. Indiana Jones is now Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Grumpy old man shouting at the kids, "Get off my lawn," you know.
He actually, I don't know if you noticed, when he goes to bang on their door, there's already marks on the door from where he's previously hit it. So it's like, this isn't just a brand new thing. Like, you could see it. There's like where he knocks exactly where the marks are.
You get a mark for making that little detail in good script writing school.
Yeah. And then he goes to college, and it's
different room, different
room.
Yeah.
And he's no longer the heartthrob of the college.
No.
The kids don't know. They're barely listening. He's like, anyone? Bueller. Nobody is picking up on it.
Dr. Jones is very much like fed up now himself, because like, he's getting old. He knows he's retiring that day. No one's interested. Which is also when we're introduced to Helena. She's a very quirky character, especially in answering Jones's questions. Where with the visually the facial expressions she makes.
But even at that, like that, I think that's her coming in and answering his questions. You can see him light up immediately.
Yeah,
because he has now someone to share the thing. Because he does love the archaeology. He loves teaching and archaeology and history.
Yeah.
And as soon as someone can, give it back to him, he's like, oh, he brightens up. He's like, yes, brilliant. And he's happy in that. And then bam, inside comes the television set with the astronauts. And he's like rolling his eyes. He's like, whatever, who cares? And I just thought that was so funny that Indiana Jones Dr. Henry Jones, right, Jr., he's so obsessed with history and everything in the past that he can't see history being made while he's alive. That for us, the moon landing and Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, first men that went to the moon and space, and it's like, oh, these guys are huge historical figures for us. But for him, these are just guys on TV. He can't see, oh, these guys, this is history being made while I'm alive.
And you know what else? I was on Henry Jones Jr. side. I was thinking what he was thinking. Who cares? So what? Blah blah blah. Yes, to me and you, history is being made. This is a giant leap for mankind. But this is Professor Jones's session, and it's being interrupted here. And because I'll tell you why, David, we've been following Indiana Jones and Dr. Henry Jones Jr. on his adventures, and we've been by his side every step of the way, every time it's been displayed on a screen. And when Indiana Jones doesn't like something, we're gonna agree until a point. But we'll get to that. And I've a lot to say.
Yeah. So then he obviously he goes and he's retiring, and
hands his prize away and goes for a drink.
Yeah, and then Helena comes in, kind of gives him the call to action, I suppose. Well, not even a call to action. It's very much like she kind of lays out the call to action to him, and he denies it. He's like, I don't want any.
Yeah, but the thing is, this call to action, I'll just say it right now, not a strong one in my opinion. I get it, but it just feels kind of convoluted. But we'll get to that really soon.
Can't keep saying we're going to get to it. But yeah, then we're kind of reintroduced into Mads Mikkelsen's character, and he's actually been recruited by America, similar to how German scientists were after the war, taken to America and worked on the moon landing.
There was actually a real life figure scientist from Germany, from Nazi era Germany, he's actually based on. I think Schmidt was actually his new name given to him. Not that he's playing the same iconic figure, of course he's not, but he's just this is the guy you're gonna put in your research in. It's adaptation. That's who he's inspired by. You know, but Mads Mikkelsen, he's looking at that Black Wader and he's asking him these questions, sort of putting the look what the victories got you of winning the war, and you didn't win the war. Hitler just lost it. He's holding a lot of thought in his mind, and he did his work for the Americans, building them the rocket, and but we're also introduced to his lackeys, big monster of a guy who I've seen in one or two other movies with no dialogue lines, same as here, and Boyd Holbrook, and this other character Mason, who's in hindsight now probably would have made as a great side character to Indy on his adventure, but that's not what they did with her. So Boyd Holbrook and this big guy are following Helena, and Indy's getting information on the
the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah. And she's on the run from them. I actually forget why.
I think they had promised it. She had promised it to them, but then she had also planned to double cross them and sell it on the black market.
Yeah, that's a whole thing with her. We'll get to in a minute.
But yeah, the lackeys come in and they're tearing shit up. They kill two of Indy's friends.
And and that's what I was thinking. This big monster killed this guy after Boyd Holbrook kills her. And, Mason, she's not liking it. But they're CIA. CIA is, they do dirty things. But she's sort of holding a bit more compass here. These guys are just doing what the doctor says. These guys, they're trigger happy assholes. And I didn't like that. I didn't like they're the bad guys. But what about her? She's not doing anything about it. Not really. And then Helena ditches Indiana Jones, which was a dick move. Indiana Jones gets captured, and the CIA woman and her colleagues kidnap Jones after even suspicious evidence that he's implicated on committing the murders. And Jones is asking, what do you want? Who are you? And this Mason chick is saying, I'll be asking, that was my question. And I'm like, bitch, fuck you. No, look what you've done here. You're after having innocents killed. Yeah, you're against it, but take the charge. You're the sponsor for Mads Mikkelsen as part of the US government.
You can't just be letting these guys go
Yeah.
and kill people willy-nilly. Yeah.
And then, good on Harrison Ford. Well, Indiana Jones. He breaks into Indiana Jones. He gets the crowd going. Still throws a couple of punches and elbows and gets on the horse.
Does what he can, yeah.
Yeah, and Boyd Holbrook follows him. And that was an interesting, chase scene. I liked it. Especially from the trailer, of course.
Yeah. I thought that that whole sequence, it showed a different side to him now. Because normally, in any other situation, he would have just, been fighting and all. But when he sees his colleagues there dead, he's like really shaken by it. And he's like, sees the blood. And normally, he'd run to get the bad guys or whatever.
Yeah.
But he runs for the phone and calls the police.
Yeah.
And then when he's in the crowd...
That actually felt a bit grounded. It's
Yeah.
like, get the police... And he goes up to the police officer.
Yeah, he's looking for people that are better equipped to handle the situation. He's no longer that guy.
And I'm full on his side, like, do what you do, and I'm hoping this police officer can do something to stop these guys. I did think there was a bit of an edit issue there, because when the policeman gets off the horse to go towards Boyd Holbrook knocks the police. That's
I thought that was
behind
another
him.
guy. I thought
there was another guy, but where's the guy that was in between
I
Jones?
don't know.
I think it was him or
Yeah,
whatever.
it looked like two different guys.
It was supposed to be, I think, but it was made out to be one. So,
But then that whole side of Indy as well is it's kind of punctuated later on when another one of his friends dies, and Helena they're getting away on the speedboat, and Helena is like, hey, we did it, and she makes a joke or whatever, and he's there, and Indy's there, and he goes, my friend just died. This isn't a laughing matter. He's very serious, and he's very in touch. He's very grounded in this one, I think, in that real these are real people and they are dying around me.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really great grounding point for him.
yeah, sure. Yeah, he's however old now in this. I think he's supposed to be younger than he actually is in real life. But like we've said before, we'll get to that. Well, after this whole fiasco, Salah's in it.
Yeah.
And he's there to punch this doofus in the face twice as well. Jesus, did Salah look old? He and even running and walking. He brought him to the States from Cairo during the war, and he was used well, and I wanted him to go with him. He even said I brought my passport too, but would you have wanted Salah to come on this journey, or do you think you could take it or leave it, or maybe it's just a bit too far-fetched to have these two older men to be on this adventure, or do you think having him do what he did and be who he was there, and having him there at the beginning and at the end was just enough?
I think having him there at the beginning and the end was actually too much.
Really?
Yeah, I never really had as much of a connection with Salah, to be honest. So having him back, we obviously thought initially that the kind of Salah would give him a first call to adventure and he would deny it. But then obviously, turns out differently.
I thought it was his role was going to be set him on his adventure, because he says, I missed the desert, I missed the sea, give him hell, Indiana Jones, cheering him on as he goes. And he's a cab driver as well, which actually kind of suits him.
Yeah.
Remember that scene in Last Crusade, he's telling, get out of the way, everyone move. Stop.
He's kind of the guy, he's
yelling.
That makes sense,
Yeah. And I like that we actually see his family. We see members of his family. He's a grandfather, which is nice.
But I would have been fine with just that. I don't think at the end he served, other than to show he's still there.
Oh, the end is a big one to talk about, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't want to recap just the whole beat for beat of the plot,
but well, the next thing is the next scene, which is Helena with it's not the dial, is it? It is the dial. Yeah, Helena with the dial, or half of it, trying to auction it off. And it's here really we learn she has no appreciation for archaeology, really. She's just looking to find the biggest, most priceless artifact and sell it for something. She's got a lot of debt to pay off. and she's got this little short round 2.0 who's not worthy of short round, but turned out to actually be quite likable.
Yeah.
But Dave, I don't know if I said it already, but Helena was a bitch.
You didn't say it, but
She's an asshole. She's a dickhead. She's like, I'm self-sufficient. And after Indy and Helena and Teddy, the kid, Short Round Junior with the afro and the mustache, getting away, they ditch Indy to go on another tut-tut to... What gives? Yous are not his allies here. They're not... these people who are supposed to be Indy's allies, like Willie and Short Round, like Marcus and Sala and his father, like they're supposed to be a team. These have their own motives. Even later in the movie, down the steps, this is after Antonio Banderas' scene has come and gone, and you even see the kid thinking he's not going to let us sell all these stuff, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm still in charge, don't worry, we got this. Having their own motives, and good character building, but like I'm hating you more and more when you're going against Indiana Jones,
who's the name holder, like,
and you know what, I agree with it, but that's straight away after the kid Teddy, he's being mocked at for looking poor with a straw hat, and he does something about it. He pickpocket them, and what does he do? Gets an ice cream. Good on him, he deserved that. That was actually the first time I actually liked that kid.
I see what you mean. If you kind of nearly compare it to Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls with Ray Winstone's character, of like he has his own motives, he'll flip flop between who's he better positioned with, but Indy still had like Marion and Mutt, he still had his allies. Yeah. But in this one, the Helena and the kid and Teddy, they are very much like they have their own agenda. And they just so happen that they are also with Indiana. He's not part of the team. In their eyes, it's the two of them and Indiana Jones. It's not all three of them.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So because of that, they kind of flip. I never felt like in any scene, especially the boat scene when Helena is giving them the...
Yeah, I'd like to get into that soon in a minute. Yeah,
but you don't know her... I really couldn't tell, like, what are her motivations here? Like, is she telling them the truth, or is she lying, or is she going to tell them but double cross them later? Or...
I think that just went on a bit too long.
Yeah.
And, like, she's sort of shoving a lot of things in Indy's face, talking down at him, thinking she's great, and also being morally against him as an archaeologist, preserving antiques, just selling it all for money. And what you said about Crystal Skull, Ray Winstone was not a great character, especially when I watched the movie recently. Helena is a good character. She's more rounded in terms of her motives, and so is Teddy. But it's like there's no team here. Do you know who was his team? Sala. Do you know who else was his team? Antonio Banderas, his character.
And I really wish we'd seen more of him, because we didn't get much of him.
He is like somewhat of an extended cameo. We didn't really get a good scene between him and Harrison Ford, like a one-on-one talking about a bit of history,
Yeah.
If anything, what Antonio Banderas was in this movie was what Sala was in the first movie, and he's a bit of a limp, but he's a sailor, and he takes him to the new environment that we've never had in Indiana Jones, underwater in the ocean, which interesting, it's cool.
But I like what you said after we saw it. It's like you would have liked him. Obviously, like we said, spoilers here, he dies. He's killed by Mads Mikkelsen's character
quite quickly too, and I like what he stood for, but did he need to die there?
No, I think that he would have been better served as almost like this is my vehicles guy. This is where I go to when I need transport, like if I'm in a tough spot. Because he has the boat, and then there's the scene later on with the plane.
All they had to do is just write that he's also a pilot.
Yeah,
that's all they had to do. Because and they could have kept him.
Because when Teddy does fly the plane, the
owner of the plane is in it,
in the back, and so there's just this random guy also in it, and it's like, but that could have been Antonio Banderas.
It could have been.
He could have had him be shot by Mads Mikkelsen, and it's like, I can't fly, you need to fly, and maybe he teaches Teddy how to fly. He tells him what to do, because there's the scene, obviously we're introduced to him, where the pilot is telling them, oh yeah, don't raise the flaps, at below 400 feet. He's like teaching him how to fly. But if there had been that scene where he was trying to get the information and your man wasn't giving it to him, but then Antonio Banderas' character, gave him the information, and we saw there a connection between those two, that would have been better. I think that his character would have served a much more to the story and a better part of that whole sequence if he was part of it, rather than having him just kind of killed in the boat.
And that was good on him for showing us that Mads Mikkelsen's Waller gets his hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would have served in Antonio Banderas' character a bit more.
Yeah.
It's enough on that.
Mm-hmm.
Another scene I'd like to say, which is in and around before or after the Morocco chase scene, is when Mads Mikkelsen is supposedly should be escorted back to the US by Mason, and it's like at this point now she's had enough of his bullshit, and she's sort of gonna now finally take action for what the situation he's caused them on.
Mm-hmm.
And Boyd Holbrook, and that big giant of a man, he's actually so huge.
He's big.
It's a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. He would have been in any of the other movies. He would have been the big guy that Indy fights. But in this one, Indy barely gets in a fight. He gets hit a few times,
and he throws a couple of punches, but
he doesn't fight. He can't fight.
And no, he couldn't. And that's right.
There's no way he could have fought that guy. That guy's like the Hulk. That guy is like Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Dave Bautista merged together.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Well, in that scene, the Boyd Holbrook's character and that giant take out the pilots or the good, honest Americans for Waller to make his own plans. And I like that he pleaded with Mason. Mm-hmm. He was pleading with, I need to do this. I have to finish what I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets shot. The CIA lady gets killed, and quite a few people get killed in this, and some of them run over.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what I thought during that scene? You got your comeuppance.
Because of her inaction previously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was satisfied to see that she died. A CIA cop who had some questionable morals, but was then, I guess, trying to do the right thing. Sorry. Teachers got killed. Innocents.
Mm-hmm.
A cabbie driver that was going to be killed, and you walked away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the balls to still try to arrest
the cabbie driver after they got out of the van. I was fully they're dead. Him and the passenger. I'm like, yeah, they're dead, and she's just walking away from that. So
I didn't like that. That pissed me off a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And in thinking about it here on, she actually, if they just sort of not do that and maybe have her be maybe if they kill the teachers and she could have joined Indy on his adventure. Imagine this 1960s black CIA lady join Indy on his outdoorsy adventure.
Mm-hmm.
That would be such a difference. Just there can be too many people on an adventure. There's not really a whole lot. The max is always 4, and those 4 were never always together.
Mm-hmm.
So it can always be too much people. Which sure Salah didn't come, and no spoilers, I guess. Short Range not in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The whole movie, as I said, it did take a while for Helena to come around. Mm-hmm. I did warm up to her in the end. Thank God I did. I didn't want to leave not liking her, and I didn't like her at the first, but I did. And I think it was sort of around the scene where Antonio Banderas was killed, and they're on the boat, and Mads Mikkelsen so coolly, but all of a sudden whips out a cigarette for the cause of the scene to start smoking. I wish he had started smoking earlier. And
you can see actually, I was kind of noticing this of when they're in Tangier and the tuk-tuk race when they're chasing, he's actually smoking a cigarette in the car.
Oh, is he?
After they've gotten their half of the dial, and he's driving off, he's actually smoking a cigarette, and then when they realise they're being chased, he throws it out the window. So I was like, oh, he was comfortable, he thought he had won, and they're just going back to the plane, so he lit up a cigarette, and then he's like, oh crap, okay, flick it out the window, and he's on it.
That's pretty good observation, because it feels like he was winning in that scene, because Helena was taking up arms, and he actually paid her the diamonds. She wanting the money, and not Jones is thinking he's going to pay you. Comes back right straight away. I think this is more than what you could ask for.
But it's definitely because he's under the impression I'm going back in time to change things. What do I care what I do now? Because once I go back, it doesn't matter. Everything's going to change anyway. So he would have given her $1 billion if he could. Because it doesn't matter in his eyes. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, and in that scene, rightly so, Helena with the dynamite. Oh, I got excited. I got giddy because I know, right, she's got a plan. And this whole time in the scene, she's reading through the scripture that I just forget every word she said and transcribing it. The dynamite blows up. They get away. Yay. And that's when you said, my friend just died. And you know what I didn't like as well with the Short Round 2.0 Teddy Kid? He took Indiana Jones's watch. That was my father's watch. I hated that kid for it.
That's very much, that feeds into his kind of mortality of like, his friend's dying, his father's gone, and then we get into it a little bit later, theme of the episode, we find out that Shia LaBeouf's mutt is gone. He was killed in the army. So that scene when he lost the watch and that was my dad's, that it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I thought that was I agree. I thought we'll talk about it later again. I know we keep saying it, but I thought there was going to be more to that watch.
Yeah. Well, he even took Antonio Banderas' lighter even. But at least it came useful when they, had to do a bit of something with the MacGuffin or the inscriptor to the MacGuffin. To be honest, I don't think the dial's all that interesting or intriguing, not until the effect is used, in a way. But now that you said it, David, I'd like to talk about it a little bit. Shia LaBeouf is dead in the Indiana Jones franchise.
Yeah.
Jesus, that actually hit me. That actually hit me.
Yeah, and it gave a good, I suppose, reasoning behind why Indy was alone at the beginning. Because obviously...
He's even annoyed at Mary. He puts the magnet across the picture on his face in the fridge.
And it was like, okay, the movie started, I'm like, okay, so Indy's alone himself. Oh, they're separated. It didn't work out. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, what was the point in that movie if, it's just every time he's alone again?
Fair enough. However, that movie was made how many years ago? And
15,
they didn't plan to make this movie back then.
Yeah.
So, plans changed. Steven Spielberg didn't make that movie intending for Mutt Williams to be dead in between time for the next movie.
But I just felt like it was, it was a good explanation as to why their marriage broke down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, okay, this is, once again, really grounded and really real.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was the best choice. Because wasn't Mutt really the break to society, break takedown, totalitarianism, or... Not,
See, don't forget, like, I think that the 1900s America was so different decade to decade to decade.
Yeah.
So different, like, literally every single one.
Yeah.
So Mutt in the 50s would have been very much a different Mutt to the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
This is 69, so yeah, no.
From
the 50s to the 60s.
Would have had to have been mid-60s, early 60s.
Yeah. And so I think that obviously Indy, having missed such a huge portion of his life, would have tried to be that dad. But like you were saying in the first one, where he agreed with Mutt and he's like, yeah, no, you don't need to go to college, do whatever you want, But then as soon as he realises that he's his father, he's like, why didn't you send him to college? So he's very much, he has that tight grip on him.
Yeah.
And Mutt is a rebellious youth. No, I think he would be rebellious till the end. And, he was. Because... he signed up in spite of him to piss him off.
Yeah.
And it led
which
to his death.
I guess is a Mutt thing to do after the relationship of being father and son. But I don't know. I think I would have loved to appreciate a Shia LaBeouf cameo. But I think they could have done it if they asked.
I think that he kind of burned his bridge, but... like,
if they asked it,
he would have.
I don't see why he wouldn't have done it. Like,
I genuinely did think at the end that he would have made an appearance. I thought that with the dial,
Yeah.
maybe he would have come back. That Helena might have, figured it out, and she would have, fulfilled Indy's wish, because, like we'll get into later, of him not wanting to come back.
Yeah.
That maybe she would have, figured out and
Given him some...
and given him a reason to come back.
Yes.
And she did in a way with Marion, but I
Yeah.
would have thought that Mutt as well.
But I do wish that the movie sort of revisited the pain Indy was going through in the loss of his son.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was sort of teased at the beginning when he was reading a letter, which is when he put the magnet over the picture of Marion's face. Of no, it's read like in case of no children.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next acknowledgement we have of it is him telling us, my son died.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not even really touched on again until it's like acknowledged, but it's not touched on. It's not like I miss him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have accepted the death of Mutt Williams more if it was a bigger theme in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
If it was the reason why Indiana Jones is not Indiana Jones anymore.
Yeah.
If they just up that more,
Mm-hmm.
Make that correction with Antonio Banderas, make this improvement here with Mutt Williams, because I like Mutt Williams. I don't care he's played by Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I agree with you though that if it maybe had been a bit more of a, that's the reason why he hung up. Maybe he was following in his footsteps and he died doing something.
Maybe, yeah.
Being his own Indiana Jones, and he was on his own adventure and he died. As opposed to just, he rebelled against me and joined the war. If it had been like, okay, this is a good enough reason for me to hang up these things, because these things, I survived them by the skin of my teeth, but my son didn't.
But it's also broken Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. It's made him who he is. Made him hesitant right now. A grumpy grumps,
Mm-hmm.
And, well, this is just my discussion, and this is just what I think. I think it's what keeps it from being a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I have all these problems. Here's another problem. This boyfriend, fiance, lover that Helena was involved in, she has no love for him. He's just there and has to be there because he doesn't have to be there. Why is he there?
Felt like it was very much he's there because we need to have like a third person in the chase. But it can't just be the two of them. It needs to be.
It could have been the two of them. Yeah. And if you want to split the chase up more, Helena and Teddy still ditched Indiana Jones. Why? Because they're not his allies. Mm-hmm. That pisses me off, David.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, come here. Do you want to do some facts?
I need a break, David. Let's do some flashbacks.
Let's do some facts. David, play the jingle. Thank you, David. As always, well, not always, but as of recent, we are doing some flash facts. So we have some flash facts here about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, launching in, I'll go first. I've got 3, you've got 2.
Yeah,
so bounce back and forth.
Yeah, you, me, you.
Yeah. Flash fact number 1. This is the only Indiana Jones film in the series not to be directed by Steven Spielberg. Though he does have an executive producer credit, the decision to step away from the film as a director was entirely Spielberg's idea.
That's at least he wasn't turned off by it.
Yeah, I think that he came out and said that, as he's getting older in years, he really wants to do things that he's really passionate about. And I think that he was probably satisfied with the 4 previous movies, that he felt like, I don't need to do this, and he can hand it off. And I think one of the maybe highest compliments that one of the highest compliments that could have been given to James Mangold, the director, was that after Spielberg had seen it, he said, I thought I was the only one that could make these movies. So he enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of maybe his stamp of approval to go forth. But
Interesting flashback, David.
Have you got a flashback?
I've got a flashback. And continue with James Mangold. This is his 12th directorial movie. And James Mangold, who is 69, and
he's 69.
Yeah,
I did not think he was that old. Wow.
I know, but let me lay out some filmography of James Mangold: 310 to Yuma, Ford v Ferrari, Logan, The Wolverine, Girl Interrupted, Kate and Leopold, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Just to name a few. I'm sensing not the next Spielberg, but he's done some diverse genres now.
Mm-hmm.
Superhero comic book genre, sports genre, specifically vehicle sports.
Yeah.
He's done the Walk the Line. So there's your
biopics
musical biopic.
Yeah.
He's done rom-com. He's done westerns.
Action adventure here.
Yeah. So
Pretty diverse.
he's done some diversity. Oh yeah. I'll tell you this, David. He's not only tapped to do a Star Wars movie, which may or may not happen.
Mm-hmm.
He's not only tapped to do Swamp Thing for the new DC EU or the new DC era for James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
None of those movies are next. His next movie is another musical biopic in the Bob Dylan one.
Oh yeah.
Starring Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
Also starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
Mm.
So he's just continuing that thread.
Yeah. He's
So-
really going
He's keeping busy. So he's, in Star Wars, that'll be his sci-fi.
sci-fi, then he's going to go horror, superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So this man's going somewhere,
Mm.
and apparently he's another project with Matt Damon. I think it's something like a cop movie. It's not even filmed. That man's way too busy. But that's my flash fact.
That's your first flashback. I've got my second one, so flashback number 3. This is the first and only film in the series that does not begin with the Paramount logo dissolving into objects with a similar shape.
Oh my god, I didn't even realise that.
I did. I knew that straight. I was like, I wonder how they're going to do that. Because the first one is obviously the mountain. The second one is the big gong. The third one is the rock formation. It's not a mountain, it's a rock formation. The fourth one is the molehill.
Yeah.
And then this one, we go Disney logo, Paramount logo, Lucasfilm logo, and then a latch on the truck. So this was the first time we don't get that mountain.
Huh. That's an interesting flash fact, but took me straight into the title opening, so which is fine. My second flash fact, which is the fourth flash fact, is this is the second collaboration James Mangold has had with Boyd Holbrook. And not only has Boyd Holbrook worked with James Mangold in this movie, but also Logan. And guess what else, David? He's played secondary dickhead villains.
Yeah, he does have that kind of look about him, doesn't he? Like,
Boyd Holbrook's on a roll now with playing villains, with in Logan, Dial of Destiny, of course. He played the villain in the Sandman series. He's playing the villain in the upcoming Justified limited continuation series. He's played a couple of, first act opening scene villains or dickheads or nemesises. He's rarely playing the hero figure he was in Narcos and The Predator. God movie. God awful movie. But that's my flash fact. I wonder if we'll see him again in the next collaboration. I think he's going to be his recurring collaborator in these movies.
I get you.
I think he's had, I don't know if Russell Crowe is one but Christian Bale is his other collaborator.
He did Ford Ferrari and
310 Yuma.
Yeah.
So he's got that coming to him. So yeah, it'll be interesting who he's going to get for his Dawn of the Jedi Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. The galaxy's first Jedi.
That would, maybe.
Hopefully.
And then our final flash fact. When Indiana and Marion reunite at the end of the film, he kisses her in the same parts of the body that she kissed him on the ship in Raiders of the Lost Ark after Indy was hurt by the Nazis. She says...
That was nice.
Or he says, where does it not hurt? And it's the elbow, the cheek, and then a kiss on the lips, and it's the exact same as in the first one. That's a nice little callback there.
Yeah. It's that whole scene was a whole that's from the other movies. That whole scene sequence. But does this conclude our segment of flashbacks?
This concludes our segment of flashbacks. We hope that you learned something. I learned something. Did you learn something?
I learned something.
That's brilliant. Then we did a successful flashbacks. Play the music, David. Thanks, David. So we've kind of coming now to the end of the podcast. We'll now talk about, I suppose, the end, something that we've been building towards here.
Yeah, something we've been saying. We'll get to that.
So unlike some of the other movies where the artifact is kind of it's more so alluded to, and you don't really see a full on. Well, I don't know though, because like...
No, I agree with you, David. We don't see the full impact and capabilities of said MacGuffin in each movie. When they are used, it is smallly used, quickly used, and swiftly disposed of.
But in this one,
you get it.
we travel back in time. This one was so like...
I think this is more impactful than the aliens, David, because when the aliens came to, they were gone. This stayed. And
yeah, we're in this. Once you... Because like you said, right, the Dial of Destiny pinpoints a fracture in time, a fissure that they can travel back to. And Mads Mikkelsen wants to go back to pre-war Germany, and he wants to essentially be Hitler.
He wants to kill Hitler and successfully win the war.
And like they're flying towards the fissure, and
which I like how they depicted time travel. And in that scene as well, I don't mean to interrupt you, David, but by God, that intense scene where Jones is telling him, "You're wrong. I don't know where it's taking you, but it's sure as hell not 1939." And Mads Mikkelsen's face in there,
like he realizes he's right, and he's like,
"Oh well, no, before that he was like, abort, turn us around." The intensity of that scene really got me.
Nobody has that. Like he's kind of pacing up and down the plane. He's like, he's hearing what he's saying. He's like, oh fuck, he's right. Like, oh, do I abort it? Like, is he messing with me?
I'll tell you this: Mads Mikkelsen showed up to work.
And I like you said, I thought it too, that we saw this fissure because obviously it's in the middle of a storm and you can see like this spot in the clouds where it's bright, sunny day.
Very unnatural.
And I thought we're gonna see into it. And he's going to pull away, and we're not going to
visit it again. That is the most of the effect we're going to see it used.
And that's the equivalent of the, the ark opening and everyone dying, and the Grail healing them, and then falling into the abyss. And we would just see, there's some other time, and then they pull the plane away. But no, we travel into it.
Yeah.
And
they didn't travel into tomorrow.
No, they travel back back 2,000 years, back to the time of Archimedes, who is in the middle of a war, and he's making the dial.
And the Roman ships are shooting rocks and fireballs from catapults, and they're looking at these planes thinking they're dragons.
Yeah,
which is a nice detail.
Yeah, but it's just
and then when we got through it, David, I thought, okay, all right, fine, we're here. Don't land. Let's just see everything from the sky, looking down. Let's not even see any humanoid figures. Let's just see the bulk of it, get them to turn around and go back in. Don't do this. Which, also, how stupid was Boyd Holbrook and just shooting everything? Being trigger happy. You're
going to take on the whole Roman army with a gun, like a pistol.
And in that scene before that, when Mads Mikkelsen's dressed up in his Nazi uniform, his true colours have now presented itself. He is a Nazi, and he believes he's doing good. But then we see a quick shot in a turn. We see the back of him, and he turns to look at Jones. Boyd Holbrook's in a Nazi uniform, and he to me is just a racist American who, skinhead. Just likes to be, part of the Ku Klux Klan, and just likes being part of fascism, and he looks like he's in his element. He's lucky, and he's an American racist dickhead. And I didn't like him as a villain. I didn't like that big hulking guy either. He was just too. He never cracked a smile. He was too serious, and
he's just a brick wall that they couldn't get through.
And you know what? I was delighted when Short Round 2.0 Teddy handcuffed him to the chain to leave him to drown. How disturbing is that?
There's nothing you could do. You just got it. Yeah, accept it.
But that whole plane sequence leading up to driving through the portal was good. And I don't mean to take away from the time travel element, David, but this is the time period I was starting to really enjoy Helena, because Henry Jones is kidnapped. He's shot.
Mm-hmm.
He almost killed Indiana Jones here.
Yeah.
And here's what Helena does. We can't leave him. And
She has the turn, yeah. She's
the
yeah.
turn, and she is the Indiana Jones for this sequence. She is the Indiana Jones like anyway, and she's on the bike racing against the plane in the darkness. I don't care if it was dark, I could see just enough. The rain, she turned her head because the rain was so hard in her face. It was sore, and like that I got goosebumps, and I was rooting for her, and I was loving her. I loved her in this sequence. What way for me to dislike a character for the portion of the movie and then turn me around because of choices they make and do. Even the kid did that when he got himself an ice cream. Why do I care about that? Because I understood him a bit more.
Yeah.
I rooted for him, which is great. I love.
They're not just the one-dimensional character.
All they needed is throw in Antonio Banderas in the plane with the kid to show him how to fly, but they didn't do that. But back to the time travel, the thing that they took a big giant leap ahead of the mythos of the Indiana Jones franchise. You were saying?
It was just a little bit too, like you said there, like if you know, I thought they wouldn't go through the portal, and if they did go through the portal, okay, just stay in the sky, and it's like, it's just all from above.
Yeah, but not only do we go through the portal, you saw in the trailers, Helena grabs Indy's hat, and they
get the
parachute down.
Yeah.
And they land, and well, when that plane crashes, that shot of Mads Mikkelsen walking up to see the plane crash, landing, and you just see the two villains, Boyd Holbrook and Mads Mikkelsen, like framed up, and the camera zooms up on the two of them, and then it zooms up to Mads Mikkelsen as Boyd Holbrook looks at him, it's like, yeah, we're dead.
Once again, there you go, Indy not dispatching of the villain, kind of their own
demise. But that felt like a traditional, classic, iconic villain death in Indiana Jones. Like, you see, it felt like a 70s, 80s way to film a villain's death. Just zoom the camera in on their faces, and then in on
they
his
get that
faces.
last like look of, oh, I fucked up, and boom, they're gone.
I really love that death. Not only that, Helena shot him, Mads Mikkelsen, the same way her father shot the Nazi back in the opening. The same way, being all dramatic, like, oh, I've been shot. Putting their hand on their gut, walking backwards, and you can't see me, but I'm outstretching my arm, being all dramatic as I die. I really like that conclusion. I'm glad there was nothing disturbing where their faces melt.
No, this is the most clear cut, like plane crash.
And I'm glad they were dead, and you saw the scarring on their faces. I'd just like to say it, Mads Mikkelsen is the best Indiana Jones villain there is.
I think he's the most he's the most memorable. I think
not only because he's Mads Mikkelsen, but just his character as well.
His motivations are very clear as well. I want to go back and be Hitler. I want to win the war. I think that's whereas all the other ones were like, oh, we want to get the Covenant to win the war. I think his ones were a bit more
a good final villain for a final Indiana Jones adventure where not there's the Nazi, which it's always a Nazi for an Indiana Jones foe.
Every other movie is a Nazi,
and in support of what Hitler is trying to do. This one's against Hitler. It's like it's giving you what you want, but flipping it into something different and new, which is what legacy sequel should do.
And so how did you feel? Like, obviously, like we said there, we hoped they wouldn't land, but they land, and
Archimedes finds their version of the dial, walks up to them and
gives it back.
And felt a bit strange, to be honest. I don't know how I feel.
It was a little bit too out there. Like we were saying there with how grounded it felt. This then was so hyper realistic that it was a little bit too much, I think. That's what pushed it for me, pushing it from being a great movie to a good movie.
And do you know what else? If they had solidified on the loss Indiana Jones has been feeling from losing Mutt. If the more they hit on that, the more I can accept and understand this is why he doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
He wants to stay. Because who has he got to go back to?
Yeah.
And my heart, Jesus. I don't think I've ever seen this in a movie before. Where the lead character you've been following for 40 plus years is making a decision fundamentally pretty much against everything that should be what they think and what we are thinking.
He's making a choice for himself.
Yeah.
And not
because
for
he's
the greater good.
He's in despair. He wants to stay. And Helena, I gotta praise the love I have for her now in this moment, begging Indiana Jones to come with them because he's been shot. He stays, he's gonna die. Indiana Jones doesn't care. He
But
just
he would have
wants
been
to
happy.
stay.
Yeah.
And she the speech she's giving him, the pitch she's telling him to come back, and he's just having none of it.
He's like, who? For what? Like, who? Why?
What would you what would you have thought if she just went back on that plane?
No, I couldn't have accepted that.
I couldn't. If Indiana Jones stayed back in the Roman era to be friends with Archimedes for an hour before he died,
No.
But because that was either one of two options, the other option of knocking him out and then cut the black was better.
Yeah.
What did you think of that choice?
Well, before I get to that, right, I kind of mentioned it earlier with his dad's watch.
Yes.
I just wanted to touch on that because I know we said we would. I thought that he was going to give his watch to Archimedes as a gift. And, have some kind of a, he's like, oh, I know you'll take care of it. Because there was that sequence where when they found Archimedes' grave for the other half of the dial, and he was wearing a watch. I thought maybe, what if Indy gives him his dad's watch? You gave me this gift of I suppose, this is my whole life of like learning about you. And for Indy, Archimedes' life is his gift. So he wanted to maybe give him his dad's watch and, have a line about like, oh, don't worry, I know you'll take care of it, because he knows that it's in the sarcophagus with him, so he could go back and get it again. It's his dad's watch, and it's been there, kept safe. I thought that, just to kind of have a little bit of a, I suppose, just put a little bit more significance behind the watch, because obviously there was the sequence where Teddy takes the watch and he says like, that's my dad's watch, but then if later on he willingly gave it up, that would have been a little bit of a more poignant moment for me with it, as opposed to being just the Nazis' watch.
I get you, but I think that when he said that's my father's watch, that was just one scene. Just like that, him telling him my son's dead, that's just one scene.
I just thought it was foreshadowing. That's what I thought.
It was foreshadowing in a way, but it never took that next step to build upon it. Just like they never took the next step with Williams in the implications and impact of his death. Just like the lack of Antonio Banderas and not bringing him a bit more. But
to answer your question,
yes,
of him getting knocked out
and cut the black really quickly
after
that dreadful dramatic speech.
Yeah, because she did. I thought it was a great speech because she's like jumping back and forth between like Latin and English. Like she's praising him, like because she like. In a way, she is an archaeologist as well.
Yeah. And,
she would be as in awe, maybe not as much as Indy, but like she's, also...
She's witnessing something you shouldn't be.
So, that was a good impassioned speech, and there was no way he was going to get on that plane. So this was the only... I wish that he would have had the self-control, or the knowledge to know, I need to go.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to, and he couldn't see anything for him back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So this was the perfect thing for him. So, but knocking him out, I think it was the right choice just to ground it, because it would have been just too hyper realistic, too fantasy if they kept him there. And then when he woke up, I really did think that Helena, he would ask questions and Helena would play it off like, what are you talking about? No.
It was just a dream.
They got the dial and they flew off. I found you on the ground here. And so have him think that it was a green. Like, we found you passed out with a bullet in your arm. You know, like you nearly died.
Yeah.
And kind of play that off and give him a little bit of peace of mind of not that she took that away from him, but that maybe he had dreamt it.
Yeah.
I don't mean it as like, oh, I wish that had been a dream sequence.
You just thought it was coming.
I thought that we would try and convince Indy that it was a dream sequence to put a bit more peace in his mind.
Yeah.
So, and then as well as that, like when he woke up, the dial was there. Like, it shouldn't, like, because you know, in a way you'd nearly think like, oh, he knows that he can go back in time now. He could do it again. He could try and go back. So
suppose they should have put a bit more of a fix on that.
I would have just gotten rid of the dial altogether.
The dial should have been destroyed. Maybe we should have had a scene where she destroyed it because she thought she was glad Indy didn't destroy it at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So now she does it herself.
Yeah.
Would have hit home a little bit more. But you know, when Indy woke up, he says, "You should have left me there." And then, stay for what? And you would have changed everything. And it's like, would that be so bad?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he's waking up and he's thinking, I'm still not happy. And Marion looks good.
Mm-hmm.
For a 7-year-old woman, she looks great.
Yeah.
And my heart warmed up a little bit seeing her walk in that door, and it was nice. And Helena, at this point, has become a really likeable character.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jesus, that was such a struggle to go through. Well, I've said it too many times already. But Helena was a good character, and Teddy was a good character as well.
Mm-hmm. But that whole scene with Marion is quite sweet.
It was sweet. I thought it was normal. She says hi, goes straight to put groceries in the fridge, and
there's no huge grand declaration of love. No, like, I'm sorry, it was all my fault or anything like that. It's just like, look, it was his choice to go.
Yeah.
It's not either of our faults, but we can get through it together, and they just come together.
Yes. However, I thought it was just a little bit too quick, and they don't really talk much, and they didn't really mention much. And yes, realistically, in real life, this is what would happen. I believe so. But this is a movie, and this is what we need to see to get a sense of closure. We didn't get that. It can be so quick to just say, "Oh yeah, Mutt's dead," and just move on.
Mm-hmm. But that wouldn't happen in real life.
No, it wouldn't happen in real life. But we need to see it. Because this is a movie. You need to acknowledge it. Yeah, we need that sense of closure. Because I'm watching this and I'm thinking, your son's dead. There's no more Henry Jones Jr.
Henry Jones III. Yeah. So,
and look, it was nice to throw that whole nostalgia bag with Salah, and then he's singing in his language, being, "I love ice cream." Mm-hmm. Salah's, it's a nice bundle of joy. Salah is, and
I like the little touch of when she opens the fridge to put the groceries in, he moves the magnet back, because he had put it covering her face. Yeah. So he's moved it back so she doesn't think that he's...
I think, look, that this sweetening and softening of Henry Jones and saying goodbye, sort of, to Indiana Jones, it was nice, but it just wasn't... there's not a strength of purpose built on it. And look, what I mean by that is pretty much what we've discussed the whole movie, and that it's a good movie but not a great movie.
Yeah.
And that was a nice touch with, zoom in on the hat that was hanging on the clothesline.
Yeah.
And he just snatches it. And
yeah.
That was nice.
That was, like I was saying there last week about how I do want that. I wanted, in a way, I wanted the ending of The Last Crusade, the riding off into the sunset, kind of knowing that Indy is still out there, he's still having adventures. And so when we saw the hat on the clothesline, and it's there, and it's Indy's, he's hanging up the hat, and he's like, okay, there's the hat, that's iconic. But he grabs the hat again, I'm like, oh, yeah, there goes Indy, he's still, he's still at it.
Yeah.
There's Indy. So I like that, it was a good... It's not so much the actual riding off into the sunset, but I'm in my head, Indy's, he could still be out there having an adventure.
But it's just funny to think that the last scene we have of Indiana Jones is in his kitchen, in his apartment kitchen in New York. Is he in New York now?
He's in New York, yeah.
He's in New York, okay. Indiana Jones in New York. Think about it. One of the world's greatest hero on film has his... last scene in his apartment kitchen. It's nice and it's sweet and it's real. holding his ex-wife, but the love of his life.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice. It's time to retire.
Yeah.
And still would have liked a little, maybe, quick post-credit scene with him playing cards with Short Round.
Something like that, yeah. But that was a stretch.
I'm sorry. No, you should have put that in there. You should have got it. He won an Oscar. You must feel stupid now that you didn't put him in the movie. You know what? Indiana Jones' first adventure of us, chronologically, was him and Short Round.
Mm-hmm.
His last one could have been with him and Short Round.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. I'm just about to list a bunch of characters that could have been on his adventure with Short Round, Sala, Teddy, yeah, Helena, yes, the Mason, the CIA agent, who I would have liked probably as well later on after her,
demise.
Yeah, well, I didn't cheer when she got killed.
I'm going to be honest with you, I went to the toilet in that scene, so I actually didn't see her die. I saw them maybe get up and they were like putting guns, but I didn't see her die.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing I want to touch on really quickly, I've not really discussed about, just an acknowledgement, we got a bit of a half and half with creatures here.
Yeah, we didn't actually bring up this. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one was the snakes, and the second one was the bugs and the creepy crawlies. The third one was rats, and the fourth one was bullet ants in the Amazon.
Yeah.
I thought, oh wow, eels that can bite your flesh off. That is actually an interesting one.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of a half a scene, and it wasn't really a fight and a struggle to get away. It was just like Indiana Jones is sort of stuck down there, and Helena goes back. Which, by the way, what a bitch to just swim
to
all
leave
the
it,
way.
yeah.
But no, she comes back and she grabs him and she pulls him out. Great.
And there's that acknowledgement as well on the boat of when they're saying like, oh, careful of the eels, and Teddy's like, oh, they kind of look like snakes, and Indy's like, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have a fear of eels, but he could very easily. No, they don't. Don't say that.
and that acknowledgement of the fear of snakes is enough for me. I didn't need to see snakes in this.
No.
Just that quick acknowledgement. No, they don't. that was good. Yeah. But like I said, it was a bit of a half and half with this scene. So they sort of accommodated us with having a quick scene with a whole bunch of bugs, which I quenched and flinched and fisted.
Mm-hmm.
But those bugs were CGI, and there was like, I'm just thinking, ooh, Temple of Doom did it better.
Mm-hmm. We got the map. I was so afraid in the first scene with them in the plane.
Yeah.
They kind of cut to a flashback, and I was like, oh, don't tell me they're going to do a travel and not have the map, with the red line. But then they did it twice then after that, so I was like, okay, they made up for it there. So
yeah,
there were certain like iconic like Indiana Jones things, like when you think kind of the hat, the whip, I think of the map as well. Think of the song and the map. That's it. I was afraid then when the first travel happened and there was no map. I'm like, don't tell me you're not going to do the map.
Not only did they do the map, they did it twice.
They did it. Yeah, they made up for the not having it the first time, but doing it twice.
But yeah, the music. Dun, 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 dun. I actually didn't think throughout the movie the score was all that prominent or strong.
No, I felt like it was missing in like the whole sequence with the horse in the subway station. There was no music.
Yeah,
I just felt like it was missing like a good like action, like high intensity.
Yeah, there was really none of that. Like to be honest, the Crystal Skull theme was more standoutish than anything here. Honestly, the music stood out at the end credits when the Triumphant theme was playing, and it felt like a Triumph theme of music. Yeah, Dave, I think we covered everything. Indy's call to action wasn't all that strong. It was just to, prove his innocence, which I don't think was really strong at all. Or
it also kind of wasn't resolved. And once he left America, it wasn't a major factor at all.
No, it was just sort of there. He stumbled onto this call of action. There's nothing really. There's no really stakes to drag him in.
Yeah, like if the in the tuk-tuk scene in Tangier with the guy who was chasing after Helena.
Yeah.
What if that was the police chasing after Indy to arrest him, and they were trying to avoid the police as well?
Already, you've made that better. But that chase scene should have been shortened, and this movie I actually could have done with a bit of a shortened one. I could have done with the water, David. I didn't get water thinking I didn't need it, but I needed it. I'm happy that a CIA agent got killed. I thought the chase sequences were too long. I thought the Marco boyfriend was a big waste of money, but the money was spent on him. The Creatures, Antonio Banderas. Helena's an asshole until she isn't. Teddy's cool, but not as cool as Short Round. Mutt Williams is dead. Boyd Holbrook's a dickhead. I really didn't like him as a villain even, but Mads Mikkelsen did it, and I love their deaths.
Yeah, no, I think that you kind of summed up, I suppose, the podcast there. But yeah, no, I
had a lot to talk about there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we definitely like kind of came down in the same vein of how we feel about the movie.
Yeah, I think Last Crusade, Raiders, then maybe this,
Yeah,
and then maybe Temple, and then Kingdom. But like I said, I could jump back and forth between Temple and Kingdom.
and don't forget we've also seen those movies how many times compared to
Yeah.
this. We've seen it once and we've sat on it for a day.
It's
so.
it's not a great movie, but it's a good Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, definitely. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate you listening to the whole thing. As always, we post every single week. We post on Wednesdays, new episodes every week. If you're not following us already, make sure to follow us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, at Talking Pictures Pod. All our links are in the description. If you want to follow us on Letterboxd, that's all down there as well. We didn't even do our recommendations. You got a quick recommendation for the end of this episode?
My quick recommendation. I got a quick recommendation. Nothing to do with archaeology or adventure action. Here's a movie to go see because it's still in cinemas. No Hard Feelings. No Hard Feelings is such a good, funny, raunchy comedy starring an actress who shouldn't be there, but she's there. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars. That's 80 out of 100. That's it, Dave. Watch No Hard Feelings.
No Hard Feelings.
You're gonna get a laugh out of it. You're gonna get a little emotional out of it, and they just don't make them like they used to. And when they put a title of a movie on with a bit of good music after a good funny scene, plus a naked Jennifer Lawrence. And,
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll go with a comedy then as well. But I'm going to go completely different. So you went 2023. I'm going to go 1980s. I'm going to go with a comedy I watched this week. It's called Joe versus the Volcano.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either. But I heard someone on another podcast actually recommend it. But it's about Tom Hanks.
Okay.
And he is diagnosed with incurable brain cloud.
That's not funny.
Well, it is funny. It's a comedy. He's diagnosed with that, so he quits his job, and then a rich billionaire tycoon says, "Oh, I heard you were going to die. Could you go to this island and jump in their volcano to save them?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
What?
And he goes on a bit of a journey to the volcano. It's starring Tom Hanks. Meg Ryan is in it as well.
Oh, another Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks.
So this was before both Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. But it's funny. If you like the 80s comedies, then it's it's right there.
Feels like a comedy with a lot of deep existentialism. No,
It's fine. It's just comedy. Don't worry about it.
A man's dying and he's asked to commit suicide.
Yeah, it's fine.
What?
It's funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. What can I say?
Okay, yeah, sounds funny.
So those are our recommendations for the week. As I said, follow us on everything down below.
Our email is talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. If you are able to remember that or find it in any of our links, please send us some questions. Please send us some queries. We'd like to hear some engagement from you.
Yeah.
Are our episode too short? Is Wednesday too long to release them? Even any give us a bit of a criticism there.
Yeah.
If we're doing something wrong, tell us how to do it right. If we're doing something really wrong, fuck you. We're not doing a change in our way of recording episodes.
But these these comments, we do appreciate them. Like the recommendations, the facts. Those are both recommendations from listeners. So you could have your say. Have the podcast you want. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, David.